Ready to go, Ms. Cook?
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, then I'll call our session to order. The first order of business tonight is an open public hearing on a petition, which is numbered in the agenda. And the applicant owner petitioners are Timothy and Diane Pop. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Hack.
Hack. Which of you folks cares to speak to the public hearing about?
I can, yeah, I guess.
All
what
fingers are pointing at you.
Yeah, I guess what it is we're trying to build a home for our daughter on our 40-acre lot. We do have a split. And so we just need to go through the process of getting that approved by you guys, the county, and so forth. Yeah. So I don't know what else you need to know from us. We do have, the lot, has been surveyed. And it's right across from, the Bergamot 5 acres that they're gonna lot out up on top of the hill of Lincoln. I don't know, what else do you need to know?
Looks like the proper paperwork has been filed. I don't see anything missing. And you've had a density study done that confirmed that you had a split, one split.
Yes.
Is there any other member of the public who wishes to be heard here tonight? Okay, no one. I'll ask the plan commission whether they have any questions for the applicant.
If it's questions about their application, we'll do that during the meeting. This is a public hearing, so we should just close it if there's no public comment.
Very good. Thank you for clarifying. All right, there being nothing further, the public hearing is closed. Don't leave yet, all right?
Okay.
Your issue will come back up
Very
Formal part of the
quickly,
meeting.
yes.
move on to, well, I've just closed the public hearing as number 3. Now we're going to call the plan commission meeting to order. Item number 4. Ms. Clerk, would you conduct a roll call for us, please?
Yes, Tim Yanachek.
Here.
Chair Christensen. Here. Arlen Kai.
Here.
Dave Hageman.
Here.
Chuck Soul.
Here.
Peter Marcy. Jessica Barmack. Here.
Thank you. Then we move on to item number 6, which by which we return to the matter that was the subject of the public hearing. This time, do the members of the plan commission have any questions or concerns that they wish to bring?
I have a question. So obviously your sister was in looking for a split. And apparently I was their assumption based on the whole farmstead from your parents, there was no splits left. But
No, we have 40 acres. Debbie has 20 acres. And that was, yeah, there was a split left. Or we're, you guys put the splits in after we already parceled it out, or it had been divided up. So we have 40 acres, we should have a split.
so
I don't
you
know.
guys have lived on that 40 for how long?
We were on it for 20 some years since Dad died, 94. And prior to that, my dad's dad lived on that farm. So I mean, this will be 4 generations then.
So I guess when we look at the density study, I thought they were always looked at whole farmstead, but they left out portions of the parents' farm. And those lands, I guess that's what I'm confused about.
I guess I'm not understanding. I mean, it's been divided out for years. I mean, we originally owned the 20-acre parcel that Debbie owns.
Okay.
We bought my mom and dad's 40-acre parcel. It was part of a 165-acre farm.
Right.
There has been homes built. David and Teresa built a home on 60 some acre.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole there's like 3 or 4 other houses built up on the other side of Lincoln. that mom and dad had,
But all that happened
But all
before the
that-
split thing
yeah.
went into.
Yeah.
That was all done before.
yeah, that was all done back in the eighties. Before the split stuff.
And what year was your house built?
Our
Our
house,
house 78.
78, yeah.
Yeah, we're living in the old, or my dad built our house in 1978. He,
Okay.
built that up.
And we've been there for 25 years.
Mhm.
Are you saying the darker green is where they're getting the other home sites from? Is that what you're referring to? On that drawing?
What's that?
Are you saying here they're getting the 3 home sites from this? I mean, this is the parcel we're talking about, correct?
Right.
But
But
there's,
are you referring to these two when you're talking about where they got the other home sites to with the CSMs? I'm not quite sure where you're talking about.
so the whole farm is not colored in there. And I was under the assumption when the county does a density study,
Okay.
they look at the whole farm as it was back in 1995. So.
Well, that would have, yeah, it would have been the same in 1995 as it is right now.
Yeah,
Then
basically.
It hasn't been a full farm since the 80s. My dad split that off before he died. I mean, it's been,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then where is CSM 7973?
That's a CSM that was created a long time ago. for
Right, I just
two
was
other
curious what
people.
it was for the other 2 home sites.
Yeah, that's just where, oh, you mean where it is on here?
Yeah.
Oh, where they live? I don't know, where does the CSM? Who is, doesn't it mention where the?
well, there's, David's house is on the other side of Lincoln.
He's in the triangle there, right?
Yeah, that would be David's. And then there's, I don't know, Doro used to own the next lot over, and then whoever,
Just parcel 93114.
Contiguous land that I was just asking about. That's what that all is. Okay.
Right, here's where it says this, what is, did you say 7973? CSM is what you were wondering?
973.
It's the 3114 lot. 3114 parcel, I'm so sorry, parcel.
yeah, where's Glenway Road on there?
It's the,
No, that's-
or Glenway, yeah, Glenway's coming up from Bergamot. And down past the green, there's the green,
Oh,
that's your
okay.
guys' land.
If you look at down, you know,
It's that green
Yeah.
square.
Okay, yeah, now I know what you're saying.
So from the original farmstead. Before, prior to 1995 is what you're saying, there was. Land split off into different parcels.
Right.
That's why the original. Whole is not considered because we are only considering what it was as of 1995.
Mhm.
So after this split gets used, you know how many splits are left?
For us,
I guess I'm saying the whole Denton farmstead.
oh, I have no idea. I think David has 2 splits. Debbie has none. And that's, yeah,
and
that's
David would be the one across,
on the golf course side.
yeah, on the golf course side.
Yeah.
And he's got, 2, I think.
This would seem to indicate they have none after this. The original splits were 3.14, Arden and Ethel Denton, 109.81 acres. Original splits 3.1, they've used 2, this is the third. This is
They're only
it,
using one.
but they're 2 previous.
That shouldn't count.
Yeah, that's not in this density study. This is the density study that they just did.
Mhm.
But the original splits from 1995.
Yes, but these splits that they probably have, they're saying that it's probably 2 of them that are just sitting out there. If that property, if the other, whoever, whatever you said, if your brother,
Mhm.
if he were to come in and do a density study, it would show that he probably has 2 available splits.
And those are across the road
Yeah,
on the north side of Lincoln.
Okay, because this is confusing then, because it says 109 acres, and if it was 35 per, 1 per 35, that makes sense, 3.14, and I thought they used 2 on CSM 7973, and then the other one would be used at CSM 7430. So there would be 3 total using that 109 acres.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
But that's not before us. Or we're only looking at the one.
Well, but the question was, how many are left? And I would think there's none left after this. I could be wrong, but that's the way I interpret it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I was looking for the map that shows whether this is, what kind, whether this is on transitional or
AT,
it's 18.
AT 35.
And in ETJ, which means that they have to go to the village as well, but it's already a split that there is available, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Arlen,
What is not noted on, where you have the CSM for the 2 acres. That is facing Lincoln Road, facing north on Lincoln Road or facing the Bergamot. It doesn't show where on the 40 acres it is.
It's up by Oscar Larson's, it's on top of the hill.
It'd be the farthest
We
north.
don't have that document here.
Okay, it's the far north, what is it?
Can you point out where it is? Are you on?
If you want me to get a different map, I can too.
This is our lot here, it's gonna be right up in here, cause this is Glenway and our house is here.
Right,
This is Geske little slot that they have, and then Oscar Larson's house is over here.
It's gonna be this
So
corner.
you're
In that corner.
yeah,
in that corner.
Is
And
that-
then right over here is where they have the lots opened up for Bergamot that they're trying to sell.
And that's on top of the hill, right?
That's right on top of the
Yeah.
hill, yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm looking at, well, that would be a piece of information that I think we need so that it doesn't wander around, but I'm also looking at the driveway.
Okay, there's a field access driveway already there in existence. There's one right here for the Skeskis land, and then there's Oscar Larson's. That we can, I mean, if that is an issue of where, but that laneway has been there forever, well, we can move it. I mean,
Well, it is a field road and it doesn't fit the specifications for a residential driveway.
okay, so what do we need to do?
Wider, bigger culvert.
And can that be where, does that have to be in the same place?
No,
Or
it
can we
does not,
move-
does not, it'd probably be better if it was not,
Yeah,
because it is very close to the crest of the hill.
right,
And this is getting close to being a blind.
yes, I
And like
agree.
I
We
said, there's a
can,
road access here, there's a road access already there, but we can move it over. I don't know how far apart it needs to be, so many feet from another access.
I don't think that that's in our ordinance anymore,
You mean how close
how close driveways and
Yeah.
driveways are.
so we wouldn't have to move that one, we could leave the field access and add for her driveway.
The field access, it's there,
Yeah.
right,
Okay, yeah,
as long as you're not using it for residential.
okay,
oh, all right, okay,
Okay, so we can just make it,
good,
it doesn't matter to us. You know, we were just saying that that was already there, so, I mean, anywhere between there and her lot, I mean, it would be easier if it was closer to, you know, otherwise it's gonna be,
if we moved it east, it would be less of a
Right.
blind spot.
Correct.
On Lincoln, and that would be
We still
awesome.
need to do a look-see as to where the proposed.
But I thought that was something that you were-
That's what they always ask about the driveways.
yeah, I mean, you talked about the driveway and I said that it was.
That's very important.
Yeah,
So, but you said you were flexible,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well, yeah, we don't have to take one out to put the other in or whatever, that's great.
so I guess like what would the next step be to verify that that's where we're gonna put it?
You mean for your driveway?
Yeah,
Yeah.
A driveway permit application, and then somebody comes out, looks at it, you guys go over it with our road patrolman.
okay,
Maybe somebody from the road and traffic safety, and then you apply for it where they'll talk it out with you, you know what I mean? And then you just have to conform to the ordinance, the driveway ordinance on how wide it needs to be, you know, those kind of things. And how far back it's gonna be, it looks like you guys are putting your house towards the road there, so that doesn't seem to be like
Yeah,
that.
we're
would
kind
be
of on
an
the same
issue.
line with what's off, there's like 6 houses in a row right there now. we'd like to kind of keep it in that.
Yeah, it would be like everyone else leading up to you pretty much. Right, Arlen?
Yep, well, I would still like to have, you know, a map of that 40 acre and say, this is where.
Oh, well, I
this
thought,
is- this is-
didn't Bob send his survey?
It
It's not-
is,
it
but
is?
the survey doesn't show what, I think what Arlen's saying is it doesn't show it as a whole here where it is. It just shows the lot.
That could be almost anywhere.
Oh,
Right, I mean, it notes, but
Mhm.
it notes it's the coordinates, the north.
Yeah, it's a
Quarter of
the
section
farthest we
15.
can go,
Yeah.
you know, on that corner. So I mean, I don't know. What do you need us to do to draw that into your maps?
Just something that any poor idiot who comes, like me, who sits on the town board can look at it and say, yep, that's where it's at.
Well, I assume that once this is all approved, that it would become her own lot because,
Yeah.
you know,
That-
Yeah.
So I guess we're not concerned who owns it.
yeah. But I mean, it will become its own lot in its own tax assessment parcel, you know,
And just gotta say, where is it?
yeah, and, yeah, and.
Just like here's your 40, here's the little corner we're putting it
Mhm,
in.
mhm.
So does Bob need to submit a new map then?
Yeah, do you need a new map? I mean,
This looks like it's not certified yet. This is a preliminary.
Yep, it's a
it's
preliminary.
preliminary. We have the Dane County zoning yet to go through. This is the first step along the way, I guess.
And you have that scheduled, right? You have
Yes.
the schedule already?
January.
Yeah, January 20.
So it's important for us to act on this tonight for you,
Yes, it was,
so
yeah.
you can get to the.
Yeah.
Is it your understanding that the lot connects to the neighboring property? Or is it away from the neighboring property?
No, that will butt right up to,
What, right up to the neighboring
Mhm.
property in that corner, that's,
Mhm.
and to Lincoln Road.
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so the 2 acres Lincoln Road property line, you just put it in.
Right,
Right.
yeah. Our
Pretty much,
our
yeah.
property line and Lincoln Road kind of,
You don't want your daughter close to?
what? That's close enough.
Would
It
the
is.
father please say that a little louder? If you, I'm looking on here and it appears like there's a 22 foot segment that is a future expansion of Lincoln Road in width. So here's a dedicated to the public, so let's see. Are they, have you sold that to the road right away, or is that just?
Nobody has said anything to us other than they had already taken part of our land to put the water or the fire
Hydrant.
hydrants
Yeah.
from Bergamot onto our property. That we weren't really even notified of, but
Yeah, the village does own
yeah.
up so far into our,
Cause I
Where the
guess,
rocks are.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, quarry rocks.
fire hydrants don't look good on a home.
Well, it looks like that's, oh, so that's an easement.
So they're expanding Lincoln.
I don't know.
Like, trying to calculate something.
We just live there.
He's doing a calculation. Dave looks like he's.
Okay.
And by the way, we checked a few things.
Right, but what do you do with this one?
Okay, that 22 foot strip is not part of the lot.
You're gonna deed restrict?
I know he knew about it, Bob, when he did the survey, so I don't know.
Yeah, he drew it on there.
So apparently it's already in the public.
Yeah, I,
Okay.
so that's something we don't have to worry.
totally.
Yeah. Well, it's like something like 2 acres
Yeah.
without,
Because.
it's not by the line that's here.
Are
So
we?
the proposed lot is 2 acres without.
Without that 22
Without
feet.
Yeah, so. If that was a separate parcel, all these were separated as that time. Before 1995, I I don't follow the whole process. I'm totally confused.
I have a split issue.
Because if you start with.
There was no splits when my dad did all of that. That was something that happened after dad.
So this was all different ownership by
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
It might have been part of the same farmstead,
Mhm.
but those parts were all separate owners by that time.
So by 1995, you owned a piece of property. And David owned a piece of property and Donnie owned a piece of property
Yes.
before 1995.
Oh, yeah,
Yes, long before that,
long before that.
before I was born. And I was born in 94.
Yeah, well, my dad passed in 95 or 4, 95. 95. Before that, he had sold off land above David's house. But there was nothing, nobody knew about splits back then,
Yeah,
it was not a thing. And so the only thing that has happened since all of this would have been Debbie trying to build her land on the 20 acres that she owned, and that didn't go. And
Because she didn't have a split.
And David built in 95, 96, something like that. It was after Dad died.
The properties had only 20 acres. That's why they didn't have a split.
Yes.
I understand that part. But when the Tofties were in here and we were talking about the whole farmstead. And if I remember correctly, they said, well, David has the last split left. He owns that. And they said to the Tofties, well, you could buy that.
No, that was, we were talking that I had a split on my 40 acres and I could sell it to Debbie. David has a split also, and he could sell it to Debbie. I said that I wasn't really wanting to sell my split because I didn't know if I wanted my daughter to live out there, which we have now decided to do.
I don't recall the conversation. I have to.
Yeah,
admit
I do.
that I do not remember that being a part of the discussion. With the Tofties.
But being that these are all.
I mean, I came here with Debbie on all.
Yes, I know.
So, I mean, I remember the conversation.
Being that these are all owned by separate people now, I mean, how does that shouldn't pertain, could it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter from, you take the whole farm as of 1995. And.
But it wasn't a whole farm at 1995.
Yeah.
It was already split off before then.
It was already in smaller parcels and siblings.
Okay.
So we currently own
40 acres,
40 acres.
yes,
Is that enough for, and
yes,
for what?
for one split.
So, okay, so you've only done the one.
Yeah.
So you don't need 70
And
acres.
this is it. This is the
No.
last. Okay.
This is the only one we can do.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any other questions? And this was confirmed, the number of splits was, on this parcel was confirmed by Brian
The
Standing.
density
at the
study,
county.
yes, it's in here.
That Give a lot of weight to what the county told us about. What splits exist and what's not. And do the density studies.
And we paid for it.
Anybody else have anything else?
Are we going to require a deed restriction on that remaining?
What's your suggestion on that?
Well, I think it's only proper. We've requested it from other people,
What are you talking?
a deed restriction that goes along with your property saying that it cannot be divided. Again,
Okay.
it doesn't have anything to do with the parcel you're creating.
Mhm.
I was trying to find the map that shows where
how things are zoned, for like subdivisions and by the county. And I would think, I couldn't get online and, I found a million maps, but I didn't find the one I was looking for. I'm looking for the two that are attached to the revised comprehensive plan
Okay.
that show us, what you, like, I was surprised to see that my farm is in this subdivision area.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that this farm would be too, so I'm wondering, no.
It's an
it's
ag
not.
transition,
Mhm.
AT.
Okay, so that means it wouldn't even potentially be
Not right now. no.
subdivision? Cause I guess that
Would it
be the
potentially be a
concern I'd have
subdivision?
about
Yes, it can
putting a deed
absolutely be.
restriction On it, because it's in such.
It all
high
depends on,
density Area that it seems like.
like my sister has her land up now for sale for
Yeah.
commercial use.
Yeah.
In 2 years, the village could come to
Mhm.
the head
Anything,
and say, we
everything
want it,
changes.
buy it, and they can build a subdivision, absolutely. So the fact that it's in ag transition now, it means that under the town ownership, they have that one split. They can use that one split. The village will not stop them from doing that. They can use that one split. And then they are no longer eligible under our current plan.
Right. So I guess what I'm suggesting is in response to the idea of putting a deed restriction on it, that it might not make sense to do that since the village could take it over in a couple of years anyway. Is what I think.
That's a true statement, but what do we have to lose by putting it on there?
Right.
So if the village takes it over, does that make it moot?
No, yeah.
Well, a deed restriction, then are you talking that something that we have to pay for another?
No, it just becomes it becomes a part of the certified survey.
It'll be on your new deed,
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, cause we,
No, it
I mean-
doesn't. Basically, it does not cost you anything. It just goes on the county record saying that this property cannot be divided.
It'll be a part of this.
okay.
That
And then we know that it can't be divided because we
Right.
don't have another split.
Right, you know that.
Mm.
But
Oh, right,
if you sold it to somebody, they may not know that.
The future.
right. That makes sense.
And my understanding with the Tofties was that they couldn't do, they were not in a receiving area because they're in this transitional area, is that correct?
No, they don't have any more splits.
They don't have any.
I know they
more
don't
splits,
have-
but
but they
she's saying
couldn't buy
like
a-
TDR.
The village
Yeah.
won't let them, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
The village wouldn't.
The village would not let them. They just put that.
I thought they just couldn't do anything because they were in this transitional sort of limbo. Is my
We're all in limbo.
That's kind of separate from us, but I'm just wondering. I guess my confusion is if they were in a limbo. Ish, does that any of that apply into here? And I guess not because they have, it's pretty cut and dry.
And the village would not deny the hex because that's something that they already are entitled to. Because the Tofties, they had an opportunity to deny that because the Tofties are not eligible for a split. So
They were asking for a lenient or variance or whatever.
variance,
Mhm.
let's say something
Yeah.
like that.
Just got one real quick clarification for you. Is there two homes across the street from your home on this? on the-
Yes, there.
on property?
Mhm.
Okay, so one of the owners is Michael Doro and Carol Doro.
Okay, no, that's up on the hill. That's up on Lincoln.
Was that part of your farm property?
Yes, it was.
Okay, then who's the other current owner across the street that has about 50 some acres?
That would be my brother
Your
David.
brother.
Yeah, it's David's.
Yeah, David, 57 acres. Yeah, so 50 or whatever. I don't know what it is.
This right here.
Yep. That would be David.
Yeah.
Sharon, what's your understanding that if there is a deed restriction clarifying or confirming that the hacks don't have any more splits? What happens when the town is no longer in jurisdiction? If the village takes over, what happens to that deed restriction?
Mhm.
I'm assuming the deed restriction goes away because the deed, as my understanding would be, the deed restriction is for our township. For property within the township. And
I guess that's something I'll check into as
deed
well.
restrictions can be removed. I've been told. I don't know that for a fact. I was never under that impression, but I have been told that
Yeah.
they can be removed. But it's a way of letting people know that that property is not dividable.
As long as it remains town.
Correct. Correct. Doesn't matter who the owner is. But that deed restriction goes with the property. If there was a sale to the property.
It doesn't hurt because if they sell it, if they go to sell it in 2 years. At closing, that person
It should.
knows, it's no,
Right.
not this false, oh, the
Mhm.
seller told me I could split it.
Mhm.
And we go, no, you can't, and you never could, like. If the deed, it's on your CSM, it says, this is restricted to this,
Right.
and so unless, which then. You would not say you're dishonest people, I'm gonna say that we come across that all the time.
Yeah.
And that, then they would know that, okay, if I do wanna develop this land, I do have to petition the village.
Mm.
To take ownership of it, and they would,
Yeah, and that would probably be the only thing that if something happened to me and Tim, it would probably be sold off to a developer.
right,
Anyway.
and they would know,
Yeah.
okay, I have to petition the. Village to take this.
Unless our other daughter decides to move into our house.
For Sharon, would you, since they're using, this is just for my edification here, since they're using all of these lots, do you need the deed restriction just on the Hacks lot? Or do you need it on all the other lots within that area? I'm just
No,
asking the
They
question.
probably have them.
I can't
Okay.
I can't truthfully answer that. Because I'm confused. On when the ownership changed, when these parcels were all created.
Well, Doro and all of those parcels was before Dad died.
So before 1995.
Yeah.
Because that's when he died.
Right, and that. When he died doesn't have anything to do with.
Well, no, but I'm just saying to give you a reference is that
Right,
for a year, I know that, those were all sold before he passed.
but the thing that bothers me is those issues of separate ownership prior to 1995 never came up and surfaced when the Tofties were in here talking about all of this.
Yes, it came up.
Because what?
It came up. We discussed this when Debbie was in here.
I admit I don't remember.
What is the, so we've got the blue outlined in the, or blue-green, depending on how you interpret green and blue. The blue or greens, is that? Are
Because
these
now
all
they're
the same
saying the
color
whole
because
farm
they've got
has only sold
common
splits
origins, or
from
what is
back
the,
when Dad
what
owned.
is the color look?
Yeah.
key to this now? Why is some of it brown and some of it green and some of it blue and so on?
I have an answer
Are
to
you,
that.
are you looking
I'm
at me
asking-
for an answer?
I guess I'm asking Stephanie or anybody else who.
I'm assuming that the ones that are in green are the similar, zoning, probably all of those are like in that AT. And then the neighborhood across the street, obviously, that's not ownership of the town anyways, that's Pergamont. So that's, the gray is whatever. And then it looks like in this back area here behind there, which is not parcels that we're discussing, but that could be maybe even an area that would be like, it could be rural, something, rural mix. It's just a different zoning, I'm assuming.
So is all of the, we would assume that all the blue-green stuff right around Bergamot is a T, you said AT, is that what we're thinking?
It is. Lori looked it up. The other parcels are AT 35, so that's probably why they're all colored the same.
ET 35.
Probably just a blown up
But
version of our
is
land use map.
that was different? It's not, I thought that was, the Tofties was 18 as well.
It wouldn't be because they don't have It was 20 acres is my recollection, so it wouldn't be
So
18
it would be
35, it
35.
would be rural something. Because it has to be 35 acres.
Should
to be
not that.
ag transition.
Should not all of those people be.
But the blue doesn't indicate familial connections or
No, that's not what that's
historical anything. Okay.
This is all.
Oh, a quick question. So where the original farmstead is, or is that 20? Then who's owns the land just to the south of that going up the hill?
Maybe Don.
Don.
Don, yeah.
I mean, he owns part of it, then there's, another parcel of 1 acre that has been sold several times.
Okay.
That has the old house that David and Teresa first built.
So according to this density study, if you go ahead and build and do this, there'll be no more splits left.
For
For
us.
us,
What's that?
for us.
According to this map here, if this is the density study area, that means there's no more splits left in any of this area.
No, that's what we were just saying, that those parcels are just colored that because they're zoned the same, but they're not included. in the
Because they're
densities.
what?
They're just zoned the same, that's why they're that color on the map.
The parcels across the street are part of the 109 acres, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the parcel number 3703 and
So all
001.
this light blue is what's used,
Yeah.
this is adds up to the 109 acres.
Right.
Okay, so it does connect to the relationship between these parcels being.
But I guess I'm just making
blue
sure
outline
you guys
ones do.
said, according to this density study, then you're using the last split and there's no more splits left.
So David couldn't,
9 acres.
so David wouldn't get a split then?
That's kind of my
That should
understanding
not
here.
be a
I
thing.
mean, because that was all split off way before 1990.
That's a interpretation that's happening here. That
That's
does
what?
not mean that that's true. That's an
Mhm.
interpretation that they're having.
Okay. 'Cause, yeah, that was split up before the split thing
Yeah.
came into being.
So, for example,
We're all separate owners now.
the blue box in the upper left corner, the last 4 numbers 5016, if that's like 50 acres, then they would, and they've only got original residents on it, then we would assume that that person would be entitled, that owner would be entitled to 1 split.
Where, what one? I'm sorry.
5016, she's looking.
Yeah, that's all of that, that would be your brothers.
Mhm,
That whole, all of that blue outlined there
Mhm.
is their brother's property.
mhm.
Right, so we would treat it, so what you're saying, and what I'm thinking I understand, and what seems to be at issue is that that would be treated separate from your property.
It should be,
And that
yes.
The owner would have to come in and say, I've got 50 acres and I want. the right to split. Now, I guess I don't,
And it's gonna become part of the village and I don't know when that's gonna all split off.
But this hasn't been a whole farmstead,
For,
as you're saying, for years. I mean,
for like, I mean, Dad, like I said, it was like done in the 80s.
Arlen,
If I'm understanding, right, there is one house in the 703 parcel that faces Lincoln Road.
703, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a house there.
Triangle.
There was to the left of the triangle.
Yeah, my brother's house,
Part of
yeah.
the triangle, there's a house there, but I don't think there's a house behind.
no,
Not behind it, no.
So that
There's
Parcel.
Doro's
that
house.
parcel is buildable,
Mhm.
but it doesn't require a split.
the 0019 parcel you're saying?
The 16 or the 016 and the 019. I believe
But
it's possibly under common ownership.
But there's 2 houses across the street, correct?
Oh, no, that's.
Well, you're talking across Glenway. This whole, the farm is split between Glenway Road and Lincoln Road. So the 2 houses across from us is on Glenway Road on our property.
Okay, but your brother has a house and then do the Doros have a house too?
Yes,
Okay, so there's two houses.
there's
on the
actually
north side
three.
of
There's
the-
actually three. There was the house on the big red brick one too was a part of it.
Yeah. that's
But that
what-
was sold. You know, they
And then-
built that back in the eighties too.
So there's big brick house, the other house that's below that, there's another one behind that?
No,
No, so it's just the two houses
there's
there.
three in a row.
There's where Arlen Christensen or Claire's Christensen used
and
to
there's the
live,
house.
okay? And then there's a
Two houses.
big brick house up on the hill. And then there's the one that
The
Doro
bigger
built
house.
and then my brother's house.
And all that used to be Denton property.
Well, right now it seems like we have, straightforward that they have a split. They're eligible for the split. It's been confirmed by the county. 40 acres, they have one split.
So
And
we would treat each one according to its own, as a separate property attached to a separate owner with separate circumstances. You know, you either have used your splits or you haven't used your splits, if you are entitled to a split, like the big blue square in the top left corner, western corner, that 5016. If they haven't used any splits, we would assume whoever that owner is, would be entitled to one split. Is that,
My understanding is the 109 acre blue, green, they have one split left.
That's my understanding.
that's right.
And you're using that one split, whether your brother across the street could have used it.
That's not a whole parcel. You're missing
That's the way they're counting it though.
that. It shouldn't
That's the way
be.
the county's counting it.
Why would it, why? Cause it used to be 135 acre farm altogether.
That's the way the county's counting it is 100.
Then I'll have to deal with that at the county.
You know, it may be on their deed that they don't have a split any longer. I don't know. That's the way I
you're saying
understand
that
it.
because they wrote under original farm acres 109.81.
9 acres. That's
It
the
is
way I'm
confusing.
understanding.
I mean, I think that there are two ways of looking at it, and it's just not clear which way
Mhm.
we should be looking.
I don't understand the 109 where that came from.
Well, we don't either. That's what the county is saying that the original farm acres were. That's in the county's density study.
Okay, when I got the density study, I was told that we have a split. That is all I got out of the density study. It's not like I studied density study
Right.
or even know what it means.
Right. Well, so-
All I know is I was told I needed to have one. I got one, and that's about as far as I mean, you guys make the laws, I don't.
We get clarification.
Notice that based on what the county did and how they identified the areas that they looked at and what they did, that light blue, green, whatever you want to call it, over where your brother's at and everything, there's one split. And if you guys use that, it's my understanding that there are no more splits in this.
So if we use ours, then David loses his, any splits on his 57 acres.
Well, I guess I don't know if I call it yours and his or ours, but the county is saying in this.
Because I mean, I figured that when we all bought our own properties, that it became our properties and is no longer part of my dad's property.
But
That,
doesn't seem to
you
be
know,
what the
I mean, that
county's-
seems like, I mean, you could go back to when grandpa owned it, you know, and, you know, I mean, how far back are you gonna go? I mean.
But so is
there
this
was-
something that we would just need clarification on when we go to the Dane County meeting?
I would think so.
But would that inhibit what we're trying to
Well, I mean,
get approved here?
if anybody knows more matter of factly than me, I'm just inferring, but I think that there are two ways one could approach this. One would be to deal with each parcel as they exist now, according to their CSM number associated with their owner. That seems logical, but when you look at what the county did, that's not what they're doing. They're saying the original farm acres of 109.81 available density units.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, because then they,
Clarification is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So what does that do for us here? I mean, do we have to have that first before we can move forward, or?
Well, I'd like to craft a motion to help them move forward. Yeah. I make a motion that based on the density study from Dane County, the owners of the land parcel 050915185010 has one split, allowing them to build one residential lot with the note on the CSM or the deed that they have no more splits available to them.
That these owners,
These owners, this property, I'm talking about this property that ends in 5010.
What about the concern for the other property owners?
that's the next person's
That's the
problem.
next person's problem.
It's also a
their
person-
family.
It's also.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously gonna have a talk with my brother about it, because I don't wanna,
If we have to try and fix that, it won't get fixed tonight. And God knows how many months, years that will take.
yeah.
It's also that's a personal thing, transaction. What we're being given is this application stating that the Hacks do have one density unit available
They're 48.
on their specific 40 acres.
That's right.
And it kind of flies in the face of what the,
It says there's one density unit.
and if I were the other person who had.
Okay, but they did this for this application. So that's them giving permission for this application, this density study for this application. For the Hacks to be allowed one split. What they do with it, like what happens with it, is up to the brothers and sisters and grandpas and grandpas.
But what if they
If
weren't
that's
brothers
even,
and sisters?
if what some of us are interpreting as what this looks like is even true, we don't know that.
And I will have it looked at, because,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't.
We have to.
Yeah.
Personally, obviously, that you would want to and have to.
My prediction is the next time the county looks at this, they'll say, oh. What these people have been saying is right all along. These parcels were created before 1995.
And of course, they have building rights, they always have, yes.
But when they were asked to tell us about this 40 acres, this is their answer, that they have one split. And if they have one split and it's okay with the county, then I think it's correct it's legal for us to go ahead and approve this petition.
But I don't know, for me, it
We're not
feels
gonna
like,
straighten that out.
I know we went straight on this tonight, but I mean, from the perspective, and I'm not saying you wouldn't tell your brother.
I'll be the first person you call.
I agree with Gus Arlen and stuff in that, that's not our problem to figure it out. Our problem is this proper under what we see here? And as far as I know
Under our
it
land
is,
use
and
plan.
what their brother says to her, or she says to her brother, that's up to them. And
Well, the rules are gonna change anyway. I mean, like I said, we know that the village is eventually going to absorb David's 57 anyway for that. So that's always been in the work. Now, whether it's this, within 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or 40 years, I mean, we waited for that golf course for all my life. And that got put in. So, I mean,
does your brother know you're doing this?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
You know, that it could be
And he's
his
not here.
opportunity
He's not
as
here.
well.
He's not an applicant.
He's not.
But we have this process for other things that if somebody is planning to do something
Then
significant
let them come and play.
in adjacent
Yeah, he
property
was also,
that
he was also notified publicly.
Again, I will have to talk to him, because obviously he didn't know that if we get a split, it could affect them not being able to split their property. Not that they even have any intention of splitting their property. At this point, if they sold it, they would probably develop it.
But we wouldn't get that answer until
Yeah.
the Dane County meeting anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's not for sure.
Right, we don't know that.
Right.
Okay, Arlen made a motion. Want to repeat it, Arlen? Madam Clerk will.
I have based on, Arlington motioned based on density study, and then you can continue on, based on density study from Dane County, allowing them to build one additional lot with deed restriction. No future development. Okay, go ahead, Arlen.
That's it? Make it into a sentence and
That you want to approve it. That's your motion?
Based on the density study by Dane County. To allow one split to the owner of the 40 acres that ends in 5010. With the added notation that there are no more splits available on this property.
Motion to recommend.
and this is a recommendation to our town board.
Yes.
Is there a second of the Arlen's motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on Arlen's motion? Sure.
I think there should be something in there stating that this density study was based on the original farm acreage of 109.81 acres. That's just my thought. You don't have to change it if you don't want to, but that's my thought.
Well, I'm referencing the density study,
Right?
which references that if that needs to be included in there, I don't have a problem with that.
So you're kind of saying by reference, it's
We could
included in the.
put the
And by
density
reference,
study
it's
date.
included.
Yeah,
Pardon me, something?
We could put the density study date so that
Sure.
so that this notes that this is the density study that this plan commission was working off
I
of.
like that.
In case there's a
That's it.
future density study, which could be your brother, your daughter, whoever
Mhm.
filing a density study. That this would make sure this is the one we were working off of when you made that motion.
But
That's
then,
right.
I think because this density study specifically muddies the waters. Then we're sort of taking on the responsibility of saying. We're accepting what it says, which is that there's only one available density unit for this 109.81 acres of historically connected property. And we are giving it to them.
Mhm.
And I just feel like in the absence of the other property owners.
Do you have any
I don't wanna
evidence?
Take that on.
Do you have any evidence to the latter? Do you have any evidence to bring to us right now that it's not, that they don't have one density unit?
Just for these.
No, I
these
think that-
petitions
Right,
we
to
have.
support an argument that they should be denied or postponed. Is there anything from the other side besides the confusion of the density study? Because what we have right now is this is a document that we normally go based off of.
Yep.
You know, so the other stuff is hearsay type of things. We're just talking about it.
assumptions.
I guess I'm saying, I don't know if we're making a decision based on the fact that they've got enough acreage that they can have a split.
Mhm.
I mean, if that's what we're doing, fine, I would totally sign on to that.
Yep.
But if we are referencing this density study says something very different and it uses a
It
very
says that
different.
they have an available density unit.
It says that everybody in those blue properties collectively have one split left.
But
And
the
if we sign
applicant,
off on that, then we are denying splits to others in the future, even if it doesn't end up panning out that way. If the other guy comes in here and says, what do you mean you gave away my split without?
so what are you saying? I need to have a letter from my brother saying that I've told
That-
him about
I
it?
feel like it's fair to the other property owners.
this is a personal application that was, the density study was provided personally to Tim and Diane Hack.
What does
So
that
they
mean?
own one split. That is what the county tells us. They own one split. Diane and Timothy Hack at this location own one split. That's just the facts.
Well, but then,
Then I don't know about,
Can we just-
that's not our business because this was the application that was given to us with their one
So what-
split.
part of this application should we pay attention to? What part of this application says what you just said?
Available density unit one.
Was that original farm acres 109.81?
That's what the original farm acres were when 1995 hit supposedly.
Right, well, I mean,
So if
if
the
you didn't
density
pass this
study's
without my
wrong,
vote, go ahead.
That's
but
not
I'm
our, that's not,
comfortable.
that's something that Dane County's gonna have to
I
come
know,
out of
it's
their
on
stuff
them,
for.
but they brought this to us and.
If
I
it's
don't feel
wrong,
like
but
I'm
we
in
don't know that
favor.
it's wrong, and we don't have evidence otherwise that it is.
But it's not clear, It should be clear. What's the point otherwise?
And I think Harlan's motion clarifies where we stand on it. That we're voting on this
Well, we're-
petition.
Yes,
These people have one split and they own 40 acres and we're in agreement that their petition ought to be approved. To split off
that's
a
what the motion
CSM
is.
for 2 acres.
Mhm.
And that's our recommendation of the town board. That's-
If you pass the motion.
If you pass the motion.
That's a bit past motion. Right. Okay. Any further discussion? Right, and I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of the motion signify, but let's do a raised hand, so we can see it and count it, okay? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand and let the clerk count us.
Sorry, I'm writing down everybody.
You know,
Yeah, I got her.
all opposed, raise your right hands.
And I'd like to state, I'm only opposed, not because I don't want them to have a split, but I want this to be clear for everybody.
Well, I mean, obviously, I would like it to be clear too, but I mean, you know.
But my understanding is, so I talked
I
to
think-
Brian this afternoon, because I had questions about this, and he admits, yeah, maybe he's got to look at it more or something. I have to talk. to him.
Okay, well,
Doesn't that-
nobody ever
Doesn't that
said
not
anything.
happen yet, or
Call him tomorrow.
has that
But
not happened?
I just want to be clear that it, based on this document, it's saying these 109 acres that are colored in here have one split.
Well, I mean,
But I guess we won't find out any more further information till the Dane County meeting, right?
Well, hopefully you guys, we can get a little bit more clarification before.
I'll talk to the
County-
surveyor that was handling it.
Surveyor, the county directly.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then this is just recommendation for approval to the board.
Mhm.
So the board.
So we don't
still
have to
has
wait
be-
another month.
Right,
So
right.
the board is gonna meet before you guys' public hearing at Dane County.
Mhm.
They would meet the second week of January, so you guys will be on that one
The
too.
14th.
So there could be some, with digging, there could be some clarification even before that.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think.
I'm not against your building. I'm
Me
happy
neither.
for you and everything. I just want to clear up so down the road, there's no problems within the family. And
Yeah, that makes
like I
sense.
say, the way this reads, there's one split left for that 109 acres. And that's, I think,
And I don't understand how they came to that 109 acres.
Yeah,
with
and
it
I
being
didn't-
Split for so
yeah.
long. You know, it hasn't been that farmstead for years.
right. Well, it hasn't been a
They
farm, it
came
was
to
never a
this.
farmstead at 109. I mean,
Right,
if you're
and I-
gonna go back
that's
to
what I told
farmstead, then
Brian.
you have to add the other 35 acres in there.
That's just not something that they can do here. We gotta
Yeah.
do some
like I
research.
say, I just want to make sure, I'm not against what you guys are trying to do. I just want to clear it up, down the road.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but all the bureaucracy, it's very frustrating. And, so it just seems,
It was frustrating for me when I was talking to Brian this afternoon. I said, I looked in the plat book and your mom and dad's thing was originally 160 acres.
Mhm.
So why wasn't that used? And he wasn't really sure. He said, I don't have time. I can look at it tomorrow. I said, well, I'll give you a call or Stephanie will call you tomorrow with what we find out tonight as to what to go
Mhm.
forward with. So.
Well, is there
I just
somebody-
want to make sure that, going forward.
I'll
you
have
guys
Bob
what
look
you think.
into it or our attorney.
What's that?
I said we can have Bob look into it or get an attorney.
I think
There's
already,
really two different ways of looking at it. I think the way that you wanna look at it makes a lot more sense. I think we all agree on that.
what we're looking for is clarity from the county.
Right.
Who
Gonna
did
ask
the,
them.
did
Is there
the
somebody
study?
we should talk to specifically about?
I have all the names on
Oh,
the
okay.
emails. So I can just read them off.
Okay.
I can add your guys's, you know, I think we have, I'm sorry, Stephanie's email address on them as well, so I can just shoot that off.
So I'm noting in the motion and action. Clarification from the county,
Yeah.
right? Is that what you're,
Right.
okay, I wanna make sure that.
That's my reason for the opposition.
Yep, okay, thanks.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense.
I'm still gonna predict that once they take a look at this, they're gonna say, oh yeah, all this stuff was created before 1995. It should have been considered 109 acres, but that's a guess and
Mhm.
I'll put 10 cents on it.
And that's my assumption too, is that your relative is gonna go, well, I have my own and it tells me two, based off of my 70 acres or whatever I have, which of course makes total sense, because that's enough to have two. And this is definitely enough to have one.
Okay, that concludes our business on your application.
Okay,
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in and discussing this with me.
Yes, thank you.
Was somebody on, Stephanie, was somebody on the line?
Somebody's there.
Was that Bob?
It doesn't have a name on me.
No.
We didn't
We didn't have-
raise
I'm
their
in.
hand or ask any
Right.
question. I assume if it was him, you
He
probably.
would have answers, maybe, yeah.
All right.
Thank
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We move on to item number 7, Stephanie's minutes of our previous meeting on November 19th. Everybody have a chance to look for theirs? I express like.
There is an error.
Way to phrase it, Tim.
There is an error on the agenda.
How about approval?
For that.
All right, maybe have a motion to approve the minutes?
The errors or the minutes?
The minutes with the errors.
Motion to approve the minutes of the November 19th, 2024.
Yeah, second.
Tina, right?
Yes.
Got it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we're done with that one. Number 8, discussion of right of way. Which is a discussion, not an action item. I understand that the Road and Safety Committee has met and is working on something. Arlen, you want to tell us about that?
Yes, there's a great concern within Public Works that there has been a lot of work in the right of way. And some of it is not being repaired or finished off
By the utilities?
by the utilities, by homeowners with the driveways. Yes, that there is things that represent hazards or things undone or things that become obstructions. If there are like a utility hub that's right in the middle of a ditch where you're gonna be mowing, and all it does is destroy the moor or destroy the hub. Who's paying for that? They also found that with the utilities, although they are usually good actors, that they hire third person subcontractors to do some of the site work. Doesn't get cleaned up, crap that's left on in the ditches, who's gonna clean it up? But the Public Works crew. So the idea is to be adopting something that, our Public Works Director, Abel Schultz, is also the town chair in the town of Albany, Greene County. And they have something where they have their application for driveways and utilities in the right of way, where they charge a $1,000 fee for work in the right of way to put the driveway in or do the utilities, with the proviso that half of it gets returned to whoever is working in the right of way, if they clean up nicely after themselves. If they leave work there, then that money, if they leave and it's causing problems and work with the public works, then that would be applying to public works cleaning up their mess. So this is something that's not in our fees right now. We have, what's it, $300 driveway permit?
Yeah,
The $300 driveway
For
permit
regular-
and for utilities, we don't have any.
there's no fee.
There's no fee. So considering the amount, if this was not an ongoing problem, I don't think we'd be changing, but apparently it is a significant enough of a problem that the road and safety is investigating how to charge a fee and also to be having a deposit that could be, half of it be a deposit that can be returned to the applicant once finished, if they did a good job.
And the other half is new income for us.
It's income for us, yes.
Do they have a current example to kind of understand a little better what's bringing us on? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I was giving, is that
No,
there,
no, but like, do you have a place out here I can go? Can you give me an address or a landmark that I can look?
I'd have to ask Public Works to give you that, to locate that address.
I was just curious.
For the driveway,
Pardon?
for a driveway,
No, I'm talking for a public, mess, that the
A
public,
public mess.
yeah, that a utility left.
I mean, I think that there's people in this room that have personal experiences with utility companies.
So the fee is
Chuck,
being charged to.
On his street has had some personal experience.
I ended up cutting the tubing and threw a lot of stuff away.
So I think he can speak for a little bit of, that's one.
I'm just curious what's going on.
That's one of the more severe even examples that we can use around here is the Bellbrook Road incidents that had happened that had left the residents of Bellbrook Road without internet and phone connection for days.
But isn't the town being, not sued is the wrong word, isn't the town have an action against it for something that happened in the public right away? That there's some work, they cut a wire, they cut something, and then utilities coming back after the town for
Yes.
some money?
That's a real-
Yes, we do
That's
have that too.
cleaned
It's
up.
different, but yes, there is.
That is a different thing.
So what you're saying, this is just on new permits, Arlen, that
Yes.
they're looking at?
Yes.
Nothing from
Yeah.
5 years from now where somebody does something in the right of way? This is just new permits you're looking for?
These are new permits for things that would be happening in the future. So if everybody,
Who signs off on it then?
Public Works. And it was the public, Abel's opinion that once that application was in and there was a deposit to be retrieved, bad actors stopped being bad actors, or it reduced it massively.
So
They wanna follow the rules if there's a money involved, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's mainly for like driveways.
Yeah,
This,
right.
there's two different things, but they're kind of falling under the security deposit sort of thing is under both. You have the issues of driveways maybe not being put in correctly, or per ordinance, and then we don't really have any repercussion kind of after it happens, whereas we can go and say, well, this needs to be changed or fixed in order for you to get your security deposit back. And then there's the utility portion, right of way work, that's a little
No,
different.
when utilities do right of way work, they have to come and pull a permit from you.
Yeah, they have to get a permit, we don't charge a fee, and we basically just go, okay, they apply. And
And that's it.
we
We'll check
share
on
it, we share it with,
You didn't know who mine was.
yeah, we share it with everybody. Well, yeah, they tell you it's one company and then there's 4 different utility companies maybe working for that company.
Right, the company comes in, company A, and gets the permit from you, but they can hire company B, C, and D to actually do the work.
Yeah, it's
So
tough,
company A is on the hook for the deposit.
yeah.
Correct.
And then they would make sure their company B, C, and D, like you're saying, is like responsible for that. They'd have to go after those people instead of us having residents that are trying to go after
So-
them.
In this ordinance, I understand the physical part. They leave a mound of dirt. They leave your, tubes cut out and stuff.
Mhm.
But as far as disrupting service, are we gonna be able to quantify or measure or charge 10 days of phone being out? We charge them X amount?
That's not in it.
I don't know.
That, what's that?
That's not in it.
And that's not gonna be in this?
No,
Okay.
it's more like you left a pile of rocks
Okay.
there.
All right.
You left a pile of rocks in there that we've got to remove
Yeah.
so we can mow the ditch.
Well, this is a timely discussion from my point of view because I attended the Wisconsin Wisconsin Towns Association legal seminar this year, where one of the subjects was right-of-way problems, very similar to what we're talking about. And the attorney presenting this particular topic offered his strong advice that we have a written policy that covered not only the things that your committee is discussing, but a lot of other things that I hadn't even thought about. When, for example, a cable company or a manure hose or any other thing that is underground is no longer in use, what happens to it? Well, it just stays there and becomes our liability or our problem. So the policy that he has proposed addresses things like that. Somebody's done with the fiber optics, they got to get it out within 1 year after they discontinue its use. The manure hose has to get removed at the owner's expense. So there's a lot of things that is encompassed in the utilities portion of this presentation that go beyond what Arlen's talking about here, but to me made good sense that we ought to foresee that this might happen someday. As part of that same policy, we can require indemnification. We can say that by signing this permit and being issued the permit by the town, you will need to indemnify us for any and all damage that you do to our right of way. And that at our request, you must return and clean up the street. The duties, the obligations are put on the utility to do this at the time they sign the little bit of a form for the permission, the permit, because we'll have a very lengthy policy in place that they have to subscribe to. So I'd be happy to provide this to your
Road safety.
Yeah, but it is lengthy and it's another deep layer, but it covers just about every eventuality that can go wrong. What if the depth of the cable, for example, we're kind of leaving that up to the utility. How deep do they want to put it? Well, this policy says it's got to be at least 20 inches under or 30 inches under when you're insert near this. And if you fail to do that, it's your own darn fault if our lawnmower cuts it.
That's
Well, right.
funny you say that because when we built our driveway, like Glenn Lensmeyer's Frontier cable was buried 4 inches under the ground. About 4 to 6 inches. So of course, our guys cut it and Glenn didn't have
Yeah.
Frontier for a couple of days. And that's a good point, that they need to do it to specs as opposed to just laying it down there and leaving it there.
So it's a bigger problem potentially than what you're raising here.
Okay, then we're just scratching the surface and you just deep in the scratch.
Trying to head off future problems. If we can help it.
Did they mention in what you learned about how to implement the fees? How to implement the fees, how much the fees could be, like, did they provide examples maybe of other municipalities that,
They didn't get into the fees thing.
okay, I know, okay, cause I just
I know
noticed
from
that.
discussion of other topics, though, that whenever we charge a fee, it has to bear a reasonable relationship to the services that we are giving in.
Right, yeah, that'll be a even deeper type of thing.
So a hypothetical to what you're talking about and what Chuck was referencing, if stuff goes to be buried to a certain depth, then now does the township or this new thing that the towns association is building, are they gonna have somebody out there measuring? Or 5 years later, when Chuck's doing something over there and they find that this cable wasn't deep enough, 5 years later, can we go back and get money from these folks?
Well, they wouldn't be able to charge us, that's another thing, cause they can charge us right now if we are the ones who cut their line, that's what we're going through right now. in a different circumstance. But if they don't do it appropriately and we're stating that they have to do it this way, then I would assume that when Chuck cut that, or say we cut it, say the township cut it, they can't come after us for the damages if we have it in a policy probably. Is that what you got out of that?
That's what I got out of it.
Okay.
Okay, well, what if the homeowner is out planting his native grass in the ditch
Right.
and he cuts it, he
I
cuts
deny
it?
it.
You deny it?
Yeah.
Well,
I did not put this driveway in yesterday, no.
We got pictures of you out there. But if the utility company goes after homeowner for repair to disrupted thing, would this help take care of that too?
We can provide for that, that it's not the homeowner's problem. If it's not 20 inches deep or 30 inches deep, whatever we specify, it's on the utility. And
So who,
they are not
That would be great.
able to go after anybody for it. It's their own.
But that's for anything into the future and not now.
it also sounds like, who, would it be the clerk who would say, I mean, it sounds like a lawyer would need to sort of present this to the utility company, or somebody who's going to be acting as an advocate for the town saying, well, it says here, this policy is agreed to and signed up on that, you know,
Yeah.
and
I would say that if there was if an incident happened and the utility company went after the township for damages done and we in turn found out that they broke policy or whatever, we had them sign or their permit, whatever their permit was, that if they fought it, then we would definitely have to get our town's attorney involved, obviously. But if they looked at it and said, oh, well, most of the time, they probably don't want to fight that either, because, you know, putting their attorney's stuff in there, then maybe they would back down. But yeah, we would have to get our attorney involved if they actually fought it, I would say, yeah.
Well, that's kind of what we're going through now in Raven Oaks, isn't it? Or we're just talking to the utility right now.
Yeah, right now, it's just.
You get your insurance company involved.
Insurance.
Insurance company involved, they'll take care of it.
And insurance company, that's what
They'll take care of it.
But they're,
we're working on right now is
Yeah,
just the
insurance.
insurance company.
Tim Ivanchuk was one of the best insurance defense attorneys you ever
That
met.
one's right. Past tense.
okay, well, I guess this is informational.
Good stuff.
You say this is a little more depth than what 20 inches or whatever the depth is than what I was anticipating.
What I talked about is specific to utilities. You still have the problem of what about landowners? What are they
Okay.
doing in the ditch? And there are already statutes on the book prohibiting them doing anything to alter the right of way. We can't change the ditch. They can't do agriculture in our ditch. They can't do.
Although they have, and we still have, yeah, particularly on Alpine, we have a tremendous amount of fencing where the field grew into the right of way when it got fenced. So we have a lot of steel posts in the right of way and a lot of trees that have grown up around those posts, which is going to be an ongoing problem. And we don't have any, I shouldn't say any, but anyway, what do we do about it is a question. Do we say, landowner, get rid of the fence, it's in the right of way? We haven't had any cattle out there, the fence is there, that was the previous owner, why is it my fault?
That, I think we can do that with an ordinance that says if a infringement or a encroachment into a right of way is found by a landowner shall be given 30 days notice to remove it, or the town will remove it at his expense.
At their expense?
That's like a simpler-
The right of way encroachment is going to be either in the 2025 agenda or 2026. So we have talked about it, we have not set actually doing it.
Yeah.
And we're just, You're shaking, you're agreeing. It's an issue that we have been discussing.
In our township, what is the right of way distance off the road?
It's presumed to be a width of 66 feet.
So 33 feet from the center
33
line.
feet
From the center line or from the edge?
From the center.
So it's only 33 feet over. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a 66-foot right of way in the center line. If you notice, roads are not truly in the middle always, so. It's a 66-foot right of way.
But that's usually close enough to know whether somebody's.
It's a good frame of reference to get started with.
Now, there are supposed to be no obstructions in the
No,
right of way.
and we have a lot of tree, and especially if you're looking down Alpine, it is.
The exception is mailbox.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
mailbox.
dang
Yeah,
mailboxes.
right.
Yes,
We can't do anything about those.
and we have driveway access that's in the right of way.
There is one exception to the mailbox rule. Some people build their mailbox stands out of bricks
Mhm.
and rocks. Not supposed to do that because that doesn't create a hazard for traffic. And not just traffic on the roadway, traffic that goes off the roadway and has to try to get back on. That can be a hazard for a concrete or stone mailbox standard can be a hazard to travel, and you can restrict those. No matter how pretty they are. Depends if you want to do it.
Okay. Anyway, this is information. Anything else I should take back to road?
That is a much
Please,
bigger issue that, and I'd be glad to share this.
Can,
these documents with you.
when we have this before road and safety, can you come and present
I'd be
on
glad to.
this? Okay, because we're going to be starting off with writing specs the first meeting or two and taking bids, and so that'll be, we will let you know when we're ready to.
Cover this one, I'll do my best. But I'm speaking as a person who was in the audience at this conference, not as an attorney. Because I ain't got no license anymore.
Thank God.
Thanks, God. I'm not singing the Lynn Dallas slam.
What's the Latin version of? Prima facie.
It's a pro se. Okay, does that cover what you wanted to speak about?
That is more than I expected.
Okay, good. All right, then we'll move on to item number 9 in our agenda discussion, amendment to Dane County Ordinance OA-23.
23,
Says
not
12.
12.
We mean 23.
That is a mistake that I made that I don't know how I made it. It's not even a transpose number. I just made it up, I guess.
Stephanie, can you offer us any background on what the purpose of this is?
Yeah, the memo's in there from Majid at Dane County. We did have we had a similar ordinance to this, or maybe even a portion of this ordinance about them changing things with the conditional use permit. This is kind of tying those up in the amendment. So just kind of informational purposes, it looks like they're changing some language here, time frame for review and action. It used to say, or the current says 60 days from the date of zero public hearing, additional 40-day extension available upon request. And then they want to change it to no change to time frame. Additional time may be granted if reasonably necessary to adjudicate the application. They're tightening up the ordinances revolved around conditional use permits. So this is just doing that. There's just a couple other things that they're changing. Basically, what Majid said, I wonder if he put the same sentence in this thing as the email to us. Yep, it says the proposed ordinance amendment revises the review process for conditional use permit application to conform to the statutory requirements.
So in a way, it's a technical correction to the way the old ordinance read. That's the way I understood it too. Doesn't affect anybody's substantive rights, it just makes things consistent.
Little things, and the ordinance is in here and all of the amendments are in red. struck out or whatnot.
Yes?
Well, I have friends at the dog park who live in Rutland Dunn and who have been sort of talking about issues they've had with CUP involving reopening the quarry there and that a lot of things happen that people are very unhappy about and that they are struggling in some ways with the county to really review the uses of this CUP where they feel like there have been serious problems. And I guess I'm looking at lines, 44, 45, 46, 43, and wondering whether that doesn't, if the whole thing looks like it doesn't tilt in the favor of the county having more control and maybe putting a tighter leash on the public being unhappy with CUP. It does end up having problems associated with it that bother people and that fly in the face of the original expectations for how a business would be conducting their business. So those are my concerns. Whether the proposed conditional use with any recommended. So this may not, I was just sort of looking at it, trying to get a read on it, but this may have to do with the process of getting a CUP rather than the process of reviewing a CUP that's already been instated. But I would not want to sort of I would not want to make the review process for a CUP if people are really disgruntled with how the business is being conducted, to not favor in it, to swing it toward the direction of less supervision and less oversight.
I didn't get that out of this. Can you point to where
Well, like I said,
the public's gonna lose some control?
So in town board recommendation. So what was crossed out is prior to granting or denying a conditional use application. So denying, okay.
What
So it is
line are-
before they have.
I'm sorry, what line are you on?
40s.
40s, okay.
40s,
Yeah.
right there.
Shall include written findings of a factual basis on evidence for the recommendation.
I read that to make, they're loosening it up for us. They're allowing us to basically deny it for whatever reason we want, as long as there's a factual basis to deny it. We don't have to list all those codes, or at least that's the way I read it. I could be wrong too, but where they said you need general approval for conditional use under 10.1 or any prescribed standard specific. And then it also cut out, interestingly, the town board must approve a conditional use permit if it finds that the standards for approval are met
That's or not met.
or not met.
That's what bothers me.
So basically, that's allowing you to do, even if they are met, you can deny it if you want. At least that's the way I take
It's
that.
crossing out both of them.
But I'd also open you up for challenge
Right,
by the applicant.
Mhm.
correct. Basically, it's lawyers.
Is it entirely about somebody getting a CUP and not, is it conflating acquiring a CUP in the first place with review of a CUP? Is there any language in here that specifically relates to review of a CUP that's already in place?
This is for new CUP.
Okay, entirely.
Yeah, that's what
That's what I take this. This is for existing ones. Regarding the process for review.
And hearing on the application, which makes me think that it's not.
So this would be, I'm pretty sure this list is intended to cover new applications for CUPs.
Okay, well then I retract my statement of concern.
You can point out where you got that.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure. I'm not saying that I was sure. I was not quite inflamed.
Yeah, I would have the opposite way of you, that you can basically do whatever the heck you want anymore. You don't
Oh,
have to
that's-
file all these
all these rules or regulations, if you can point to a fact that you don't like, I'm pointing to this fact, I'm denying it.
Okay,
That's the way I read it.
okay, I'm comfortable with that.
And you're talking about the board level. At the,
But then Dane County can do what they want.
they can do what they want over what we.
That's the problem.
Yeah, that we're not gonna be able to. Anybody else have any questions or comments before we give the town board our recommendation about this amendment?
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance amendment 2024-08-23 regarding review process for conditional use permits.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
This is to recommend to the board that they approve, right? Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that's our recommendation. Okay, and that brings us to
Public
public comment. I see one member of the public in the audience.
Only Lori, our person the other person online is no longer with us, so.
All right, so we can skip over public comment. And go to number 11, communications. Anybody have communications that they're aware of, they want to share? All right, I would like to communicate to all of you, I wish you a very happy and healthy holiday season.
You too.
Town board items, Arlen Kai.
We have, well, as you well have received a love letter in the mail, the town budget has been passed. Tax bills have been sent out. That's been the big work. If you have, let's see, heading into the holidays, the town board will be one member short at the January meeting.
Who will be absent?
Myself, be out of country.
Again?
So I think the board is capable of functioning on its own. Lori will be in charge.
Where are you going out of the country, Arlen?
South America. So we're seeing our foreign exchange students in Chile and then proceeding around the bottom of South America, coming back through Falklands, Argentina, and Uruguay, and flying home.
It's summer down there?
It's summer down there. And I gotta check the bean and corn crops down there. Since they're in competition with our farms. Other than that, or do you have any questions of the town board? Or Lori, did you, since I have a fact checker here, anything else to report that action that we've taken?
No, not really.
And I think you've had the excitement on the road and safety things.
Okay.
So that's it.
Does the town board have asked the plan commission to do anything?
No.
No. Right. And with that, we move on to final item on our agenda, a motion to adjourn. Listening.
Sharon.
I so move.
I'll second.
I was like,
All in favor, say aye.
trying to be selfless and let somebody else get a chance.
See you all after the first.
She was in a giving mood.
Sharon Dave, you were here when one of the Denton family, the parcel that's across the road, sort of behind everything. When they came in and they divided